We continue now at the top of Daf and Beis and Meseches Menachos. This is Menachos Daf 85b. On the previous Amud, the Mishnah said that the grain that is used for the Omer, for Shtei HaLechem, perhaps for other Menachos as well, it has to be superior grain. And the Mishnah asked, how does one work the land in order to make that superior grain? And the Mishnah said that you plow it in the first year, and that's essentially a pre-season plowing. That's to make the earth good. And then in the second year, you're going to plant the seeds. And the Gemara asked on the previous Amud, in that second year, is there also a pre-season plowing in additional to the regular plowing when you plant the seeds, or is there just the plowing of planting the seeds? And the Gemara in the previous Amud brought a Brisa, and the Brisa seemed to indicate that Shona, that one does repeat that pre-season plowing. But the Gemara says, how does that really answer the question? Because the Mishnah doesn't say that. And Brisa Katani Shona, the Brisa does say that one repeats the plowing. So just because the Brisa says it, the Mishnah seems to indicate the opposite. And the Gemara continues in answer to that, Holo Kasha, this is not difficult. Kan Ba'avuda, in one case we're talking about a cultivated field, by a field that's been cultivated, it doesn't need that repeat plowing. And Kan B'She'ena Avuda, the other case, it's not a cultivated field, and that needs the repeat plowing. But the Gemara continues and asks, my Havila, so what is the conclusion over here? And the Gemara answers, Tashma, coming here, the following proof, the Tanya, as we learned in a Brisa, near Chetzia Vizorei Chetzia, we'll see Rashi in a moment, but literally means half plowed and half is going to be planted. And then the next year, near Chetzia Vizorei Chetzia, it's half plowed and half planted. And Rashi Ksaviat explains, Tashma, coming here, proof from the Brisa, the Lo Neira Ella B'Shana Rishona, that pre-season plowing is only in year one. The Brisa says, Ner Chetzia Deshana Rishona Chor Shakula, means in the first year, he's going to plow the whole thing. However, Vizoreya Chetzio Meinea Chetzia Ner, but then he's only going to plant half of it. The other half is going to be fallow. V'chein B'Shana Shnia, then in the second year, Choresh Kula, again, he plows the whole thing. Vizoreya HaChetzi, but he plants the half. Shalo Zora Ishtaka, that he didn't plant the year before. V'hachetzi Shazora Ishtaka, and the half that he planted the year before, Meiniach Nir B'chol Shana, that when he leaves that it's plowed, he doesn't plant that. Zoreya Nir Shal Ishtaka, and he's going to plant, again, that which was plowed the year before. Upashit de'ein neira ela pamachas, and essentially the answer over here is that this pre-season plowing happens only once. Ulahachi ein zora kulak achas. That's why he doesn't plant the entire thing at once. Shein derech b'nei adam lizroa karka yoseim shana achar shana. People would not plant the same land year after year mivnei shematisha mesasados, because that would weaken the field. Lakach zora lechatzoim. That's why again he plants in halves. Umar ben peiros b'chol shana, and that increases the amount of produce the entire year. And so again, essentially the answer of the Gemara based on this Brisa is that repeat pre-season plowing does not happen in the second year. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Ein mevian esa omer elamin hasados hamudramos shaberetz Yisrael. One only brings the omer from the sados hamudramos, which is the southern fields of Eretz Yisrael, shabohen chama zorachas umehen chama shokas, that it's upon those fields that the sun rises, it's upon those fields that the sun sets. Rashi has on the previous Amar, it means the southern fields of Eretz Yisrael. Tosas phrase it as south of Yerushalayim, and Tosas also say that if it's on an incline, let's say on a mountain, so it's going to be the area that's facing towards the south. That's the idea of the southern fields. And the Gemara continues, Tanya Namihachi was taught in a Brisa as well. Abishol says, Omer hayabami bikas beis makla, the Omer would come from the valley of beis makla, kebas gimel saw, and it was a field that was gimel saw, 3 saw. Haisa, that's how large it was. Visadim mudramas haisa, and it was a southern field. Uba chama zorachas umimena chama shokas, and upon that field, the sun would rise and the sun would set. Near chetzia v'zorei chetzia, he'd plow half and plant half, as we just described. Near chetzia v'zorei chetzia, again in the second year, also plow half and plant half. And the Gemara continues, Rav Chilkiah bar Tuvi havale karna diara. Rav Chilkiah bar Tuvi had a corner of land near chetzia v'zorei chetzia, near chetzia v'zorei chetzia. He would plow half, plant half, plow half and plant half. V'yavda al chad shrei, and it would produce twice as much produce. Umazvin lehu lechite lesmida, and he would sell that wheat for the finest flour. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. The Mishnah said, Vim hisli psula, if the flour becomes wormy, then it's puzzle, it's disqualified. Tanu Rabban, and the sages taught in a Brisa. Soles shehisliya ruba psula, if the majority of the soles becomes wormy, then it is puzzle. V'chitin shehisliya ruban psulos, and the wheat, if the majority is wormy, then it is puzzle, it is disqualified. Boy, Rabbi Yirmiyah asks the following question, Berov chita, is it the majority of the wheat kernel that we're referring to, O berov sa'ah, or is it the majority of the saw of wheat? And the Gemara says, Teiku. The Gemara leaves that as a question. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. Boy, Rava asked the following question: Hikdishon, if one consecrates this wormy flour, Mausha Yilka Alein Mishum Balmum, would one get Malchus because that's like consecrating an animal that has a blemish? This also is considered blemished because of the fact that it's wormy. Kavan de Pasal Kebalmum Dummy, since it's disqualified, it's just like having a blemish, and therefore that would be a violation. Odilmar, maybe ain't Balmum Ela Bebehema, maybe the concept of Balmum is only by an animal, Teiko, and the Gemara leaves that as a question. And the Gemara continues, Tanan Hasam, we learned in the Mishnah over there, this is a Mishnah Meseches Midos, Kol Eitz Shenimtza Bo Tolas, any wood where there's worms, Pasal Lagabi Mizbeach, it's Pasal, it's disqualified to be on the Mizbeach. And the Gemara continues, Amar Shmuel, Shmuel says, Lo Shanu Ela Lach, this is only taught with regards to wood which is lach, which is moist. Aval Yavish, but if it's dry, so Goro, one can just scrape off the worms, v'kosher, and it is kosher. And the Gemara continues, Boy, Rava asked the following question, Hikdisho Mahu, again the same question, if one sanctifies that kind of wood, what's the halach in terms of Shayilka Olav Mishum Balmum, that one would get malchus because it's considered blemished. Kevan de Pasal Kebalmum Dummy, since it's disqualified, it's considered like a blemish. Odilmor, maybe Ein Balmum Ela Bebehema, maybe the concept of blemished only applies by animals. And the Gemara says Teiko, again the Gemara leaves that as a question. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Tekoa, that's the oil of a place called Tekoa, Alpha Lashem, and that is the most superior oil when it comes to Menachos. Abashol, Omer Abashol says, Shniyolah, secondary to that is Regev Be'ever HaYarden, is the oil from Regev in the other side of the Yarden. Kol ha'arotzos hayu kasheros, really all lands are kosher. Elamikan hayu mavin, it was just from these places which they brought. And the Mishnah continues along the same lines as the earlier Mishnah, Ein mavin lomi beis hazvalim, we don't bring the oil from olive trees that are in a fertilized field. The idea is, again, if it requires fertilization, it's not the highest quality. Velomi beis hashlachim, and not the fields that require irrigation. Velo min masha nizra beineim, also not from olive trees where one planted between the olive trees. If one planted seeds between the olive trees, that also causes it to be inferior. Vim hevi kosher, now if he does bring from these places, it is kosher. And the Mishnah continues, Ein mevin an pikton, we don't bring an pikton oil, the Gemara will explain that. Vim hevi kosher, and if one does bring that, it is kosher. And finally, the Mishnah continues, Ein mevin min hagargrin shenishru b'mayim, we don't bring the oil from olive berries that were soaked in water, velo min hakavoshim, and not from pickled olives, velo min hashlukim, and not from boiled olives, vim hevi pasel, and if one does bring those, it is pasel, it is disqualified. And the Gemara begins with some Agadata. The pasuk says in Sefer Shmuel, Vayishlach Yoav Tekoa, Yoav sent to Tekoa, Vayikach Mishamisha Chachama, he took from there a wise woman. And the Gemara asks, Ma'ishna Tekoa, what is unique about Tekoa? And the Gemara answers, Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Mitoch Shergilin b'shemen zayis, since they're accustomed to consuming shemen zayis, so chachma metzuya behen, so wisdom is common among them. Again, since they consume olive oil, therefore that brings wisdom. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, Tanu Rabbanan, the sages taught in a brayso, the pasuk says, V'tovel b'shemen raglo, it says that he dips his foot in oil. Zechelko shel Asher, the pasuk over here, it's a reference to the portion of Asher in Eretz Yisrael, that's the tribe of Asher. Shemoshech shemen kemayin, what's unique about the area, the territory of Asher, is that the oil flows like a spring in that area. And the Gemara continues, Amru, they said, Pamachas nitzruchu lehen anshe Ludkia b'shemen, there was one time that the people of Ludkia, they needed oil. So minu lehen pulmustus echot, so they appointed for themselves a particular agent. And Amrulo, they said to him, Leich v'havei lanu shemen b'meya ribo, go and bring to us oil. We want 1,000,000 mones worth of oil. And so halach li Yerushalayim, he went to Yerushalayim. Amrulo, they said to him, Leich Latzur, they said to him, go to Tzur, which is an area, Halach Latzur, so he went to Tzur. Amrulo, they said to him, Leich Legush Chalav, go to Gush Chalav, Halach Legush Chalav, he went to Gush Chalav. Amrulo, they said to him, Leich Eitzel Ploni, Lasada Halaz, go by so-and-so, go to this particular field. Umatzu Shaya Ozek Tachaz Zesav, and they found that he was digging underneath his olive trees. Amarlo, they said to him, Yeshlach Shemin b'meya ribo, they said, do you have oil? Do you have the 1,000,000 monas worth of oil which I need? Shani tzarech, which I require. Amarlo, he said to him, Hamten li achasayim melachti, wait until I finish my work. Himten achasayim melachto, so he waited till he finished his work. La'achar shasayim melachto, after he finished his work, hifshel kelev la'achorov, so then he threw his tools over his shoulder. V'haya mesakilu v'baderech, and he was clearing stones, and he was walking on the road back to his house. And so again, Amarlo, he said to him, Yeshlach shemen v'meya ribo, do you have this oil? Again, 1,000,000 mon of oil. And the Gemara continues that this agent thought to himself, Kimedumani, I think sheschok sachaku biha Yehudim, that the Jews are playing some kind of joke on me. This person's working all alone. He has no help in the field. I'm supposed to come to him for all of this oil. Kevan shehigia le'iro, when he came to his city, hotzia lo shevchaso kumkum shel chamin, his maidservant took out a kumkum of chamin, took out a small kettle of hot water. V'rachatz bo yad v'raglav, he washed his hands and his feet. Hotzia lo safel shel zav malei hashemen, and she took out for him a golden basin. It was filled with oil. V'taval bo yad v'raglav, and he dipped in there his hands and his feet. L'kayim mashenemer, to fulfill that which it says in the pasuk. V'tovel b'shemen raglo. Again, it says in the pasuk that he dips his foot in oil. And the brisa continues, la'achar sha'achlu v'shaso. Now after they ate and they drank, modad lo shemen b'meya ribo. He measured out this oil. He measured out the 1,000,000 maneh worth of oil. Amar lo, and he said to him, Kloma tatzarach liyoser, do you need any more? Amar lo, he said, yes, ela she'ein li damim, but I don't have money for that. Amar lo, he said to him, Im ata rotza likach kach, if you want to take, v'ani elech imach ve'etol damav, and I will go with you and I will collect the money. And so madad lo shemen b'shmona asa ribo, so then he measured out for him an additional 180,000 maneh of oil. And the brisa continues and says, Amru, they said, the local people said about this story, Lo hiniach oso ish lo sus v'lo pered v'lo gamal v'lo chamor be'eretz Yisrael. This man, he did not leave any horse or mule or camel or donkey in Eretz Yisrael, shalo sachar, that he didn't hire. He hired every animal in Eretz Yisrael in order to carry all of this oil. And the brisa continues, Kevan shehigia le'ira, when he reached his city, Yotzu an she'ira l'kalso, the people of his city, they came out to praise him. Amar lahem, he said to them, Lo li kalsuni, don't praise me, ela lo zeh sheba imi, you should praise the person that came with me. Shemodad li shemen b'meya ribo, he measured out for me 1,000,000 maneh worth of oil. V'arei no shebi b'shmona esrei ribo, and he has a claim against me of 180,000 maneh worth of oil. L'kayim mashenemer, fulfilling that which it says in the pasuk, Yesh misasher ve'ein kol misroshesh v'hon rav. There are those who give the impression of wealth, but they don't have, and there are those who give the impression of being poor, but they have a lot. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Ein mevi'in lomi beis hazvalim, we don't bring oil from the beis hazvalim, the fertilized areas, and then the Mishnah said we don't bring anpikton oil, and if one does, it's disqualified. And the Gemara asks, V'atanya, but we learned in a brisa, Ein mevi'in anpikton, again, we don't bring anpikton, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Pei Vav Amud Aleph.